I have a very special guest, my friend She Van Fleet. She's the author of the book Mao's America, A Survivor's Warning. She describes herself as Chinese by birth, American by choice, survivor of Mao's Cultural Revolution, and defender of liberty. She was born in China. She lived through the Cultural Revolution and was sent to work in the countryside at the age of 16 for re-education. After Mao's death, she was able to go to college and eventually came to America for graduate study. She has lived in the United States since 1986. In 2021, she delivered a school board speech in Loudoun County, Virginia, against critical race theory that went viral and ignited national conservative media attention. I was in the room when you gave that speech, and I also spoke that day, I believe. She now devotes herself full-time to warning Americans of the danger of Marxist ideology and the parallels between the two cultural revolutions, one in China more than 50 years ago, and one unfolding in America today. Since going public with her message, She Van Fleet has appeared on Fox News, TuckerCarlson.com, NewsMax, and radio shows and podcasts around the country. Welcome, She Van Fleet. It's so good to have you here today.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we have been friends for a long time.
We have. Yes, it's been an honor and a pleasure to get to know you. And your attention that you're getting is well-deserved because you have a lot to say. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have this conversation with you today. So in the coming half hour or so, we're going to be talking about totalitarianism, particularly communism, but also about some of these other authoritarianisms that have sort of aligned themselves together and are walking hand in hand, at least at the moment, with the communists. They're standing together in protests. They're walking on the same side of these hot-button geopolitical debates. And some of the people that I also want to mention are the radical Islamists. And I'll make some distinctions as we go along. We don't need to go deep in that right now, but it is a very interesting alliance. So I just want to plant that out there so that we perhaps touch on that a couple times as we speak. But I want to just, because of time, I want to get right into it. So just this week, we sent a text message that had this little short video, and it was taken in Brooklyn, New York. But I want to play it to start our conversation going.
We need a revolution against the billionaires?
I do. How do we do that?
Excellent. Well, we're the Revolutionary Communists of America, and we're out here at Maria Hernandez Park. It's quite a lovely, lively day out here on a Sunday. And yeah, we're out here talking to workers, talking to students, bringing forward a revolutionary program. We're building a Marxist cadre organization, so that means that we're training Marxists that can train more Marxists so that we can build the core of a future mass party that can lead the working class to overthrow capitalism, expropriate the capitalists, put all of the means of production under democratic workers' control so that we can build for the needs of society and not just the profits of a parasitic layer of billionaires.
So now, I wanted to start the conversation going on that. Now, I'm sure that there have been people in the United States who have been openly proclaiming communism, advocating communism here and there for a long time, but what do you feel when you see something like that? What's your immediate reaction?
Yeah, of course, it's just horrified that this is happening in America and happening to the young people. But by now, I'm so already learned so much about the missing history that I did not study when I came after I came here. The history of communism in America, and knowing that, it's not surprising at all. And I don't know how many Americans know that history that is important. So we know that the first communist revolution succeeded in Russia in 1970.
Yes.
And in 1919, the Communist Party USA was founded 2 years after the Russian Revolution. And it's CPUSA. And do you know when Chinese Communist Party was founded? In 1921. 2 years after the CPUSA. And so CPUSA has been very, very active in America. And also they were heavily involved with the labor movement. And because they were hoping to achieve the Russian style kind of communist revolution and basically use violence to take over the government, which was the prescription by classic Marxism. And we also witnessed the violence came out of the Civil War, the Civil Rights Movement. And we have Weather Underground, and we have Black Panthers. They use violence. They actually, absolutely, they kill cops, and then they try to bomb the Congress. But it did not. They did not succeed.
Pause for a second. Were the Black Panthers associated with the Communist Party USA?
No. They're not. But they are communists.
They're communists, but just not.
They're communists. What I'm trying to say is that for a long time, that the communists in America and have tried the kind of violence revolution to overthrow the government.
Yes,
that was typical of Russian Revolution, typical of Chinese Communist Revolution. Right? They did not succeed. And just say a few words about CPUSA. So CPUSA is always there because in America it's legal. You can't have different political parties. But it was after a while they were really just no one paying attention to them because they lost their credibility. But recently they have seen the surge of membership recently in the past few years. And also now we have new party which called the Revolutionary Communist Party. So it's growing. It's absolutely growing recently. Okay, so now I have to go back. So they tried the old-fashioned way, use violence to overthrow the government. They did not succeed. So by then, that is a problem that posed to the Western communists, not just the American communists, but communists in the West as well. So they come up with a new strategy that's called cultural Marxism. And the grandfather of that is Antonio Gramsci, Italian communist. So they know that using violence and or mobilize the working class did not work. So they have to go another way, is to take over the culture and subvert, all the institutions. So we know this. I think your listener probably have heard by now the expression "long march through institutions."
Yes. And
just little by little, they go all institutions and take over it, and by infiltrating, And of course, the very, very first thing they did is, of course, education, churches, media, and by now it's everywhere. It's absolutely by the time we kind of wake up, most of our institutions are in the hands of Marxists. That's how they have been so wildly successful. And by the time we kind of wake up in 2020, it's almost too late. But now with Trump back to office, we have a chance. And so I always say this is our fighting chance. If we messed up this time, I don't know. So that is, I think, the history of communism, in America.
Yeah, it's interesting because I want to come back to the topic of education because it lies at the center of every communist revolution, the takeover of education. But of course, in the 1950s, after World War II in the United States, and I just confirmed that with a little bit of research this afternoon, but my memory plus my wide reading, I know you and I both have read quite a bit on these topics. Communism was really a bad word in the United States. Everybody understood that it was, and there was a great deal of fear about it. There was a great deal of, McCarthy went to investigate, and he was aware of people that, they thought it was a conspiracy theory at the time that was not true, but he was aware that there were people working from inside the institutions that were trying to subvert and overthrow the United States. But there was a general popular awareness that you don't say that you're a communist or a socialist in the United States if you want to have any credibility or opportunity to be elected to the government in the United States. And that persisted almost through, in the 1980s. It was similar the similar situation. A lot of the focus was overseas, and then of course, we had the fall of the Berlin Wall and the collapse of the Soviet Union. And I think at that time, maybe Americans let their guard down a little bit. But meanwhile, as you say, the long march through the institutions was quietly proceeding. And to the point that today in 2019, I've skipped over a lot, but there were elections and people worked their way into the media and government and onto the school board in our own county of Loudoun County.
Yes.
2019, they quietly put all the Democrat endorsed candidates who are sympathetic to this worldview, took over the school board, and in a very short period of time took control, and the lack of transparency and the quick transformation of curriculum and the idea that your kids belong to the state, they don't belong to you, and all these things work together. So that brings us to today. We hopefully, God willing, we're in a position to retake the Loudoun County School Board, and at the same time as we're doing that in this election in November, in about 1 month. And at the same time, there's talk of abolishing the Federal Department of Education, which is another thing that has enabled this national control of our education system that was founded by Jimmy Carter in 1979. So what is your assessment? I know I was shocked a couple of years ago when my kids were graduating from high school and they've, now moved their way through college, but they said, Dad, you'd be surprised how many of our friends at school are sympathetic to socialism. Where are we now? What are we at? And what do we do?
I have to go back a little bit because without this kind of historical knowledge, it's kind of hard to understand. Okay, so talking about, I did talk about the classic Marxist, classic communism, Marxism in America. They had, they tried and they failed, and then we have this cultural Marxism to basically carry the torch, and that started in the 60s and 70s, and this back then it's called counterculture, but that is absolutely the first phase of the
you're going to be rebellious
revolution.
You're going to be the cool rebellious person you're going to be associated with.
Rebellion against what? Against tradition, against the founding principles. Anything that is America is bad. Okay, so but that failed because they failed to have this critical mass, because most of the people are still kind of conservative, and in the 60s and the 70s, we're still in the Cold War, and communism is still a bad word. And people that age group, so many of them talk to me that they learned in school that communism is bad. Soviet Union was bad. Communist China was bad. And what happened? This is very, very, very important. What happened is that after the Cold War, something really dramatic had happened. And so some people, that was 1992, the fall of Soviet Union, and the Berlin Wall. And then there is like a consensus that communism was defeated. It's gone. It's yesterday. And China, it's going to be a capitalist country. Right. And at that time, it was that time period that schools stopped teaching communism.
Is bad.
And then they started to, So the school kids doing that, or the students from that era on, learned nothing about communism, that it was evil, and they learned socialism was good. And then now they say communism was good. So that is important to know what happened. So the fall of Soviet Union is actually the beginning point of the intellectuals here, the communist intellectuals started to openly teach communism is a good thing. So
do you think that the Soviet Union is just playing dead for the purpose of strategically allowing themselves to advance quietly through the rest?
This is the question that really, really bothered me, because I want to know. And for the longest time, I tried to understand why communism was defeated in Soviet Union. And yet it is strengthened in communist China. And so I don't think anyone has an absolute 100% answer. Yeah, but this is my answer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, communism was defeated because of Christianity.
Yes.
In Russia.
Mm-hmm.
This is something new. I did not know before that since World War II, Stalin restored church, the Orthodox Church, because I feel like that might help with the war effort. So Christianity did not die in Russia. It was, of course, the Orthodox Church was, the elites probably were controlled by the Communist Party back then. But, and it's collapsed because all sorts of things, external pressure, internal pressure, but also because Christianity. And so I do believe that communism was rejected in Russia. Russia now is a totalitarian country, or I think it's, I change it. It's an authoritarian country, and it's not a communist country.
That's right.
That's why you can see, take Bernie Sanders example. He was in love with Soviet Union.
Yeah.
He has had his honeymoon there.
Right.
And now he hates Russia. Why? Russia is no longer a communist country. Russia refused to go woke. And so these are the true communists, American communists, is represented by Bernie Sanders. From their attitude towards Russia, I think it tells a lot. Okay, so that's my take. I can be wrong, but I think Christianity played a huge role in the collapse of Soviet Union. But that's not the case in China. China, in the mid 1800s, a lot after it was forced to open up to the missionaries in the 1860s, around 1860, after the Opium War. So many Western missionaries went to China, and so many American missionaries went to China. There's just so many stories. I think one day it should be told to American people. Those people, they went to the interior of China. And my province went to the remote that I did not even want bother to go. They went there. They tried to spread the gospel, and they tried to civilize China. And actually, they did so much good work, but all wiped out by communism. Wiped out. Now we still have some house underground church or the government sponsored churches,
right?
But mostly the work is wiped out. And so Russia, when Soviet Union fell, they were able to go back to something, back to Christianity. If China today communism was collapsed, they had nothing to go back to because the soil was sterilized. No. Yeah, it's no longer, it's wiped out.
Yeah,
and then people don't have any belief system left. They don't have the belief system that teach them what's right, what's wrong.
Well, there's I want to just touch on this for a moment and help our viewers to understand, just in a nutshell, why the biblical Christian faith is such a deep threat, an existential threat to the communist worldview. And in summary, when it really comes down to it, communism is a radical materialist philosophy, and it's incompatible with a Christian with a biblical view of right and wrong, in part because the Bible affirms that people have ownership of the fruit of their labors. The Bible says, for example, in the Ten Commandments, do not steal, do not covet. Well, stealing assumes that you have property, that you own something, and that you have a right to that. And so saying do not steal has no meaning if there's no affirmation of property. Do not covet also similarly, by the same argument, has the same emphasis. The reason that we were able to abolish slavery in the United States is because of these principles in the Bible. It was, those are irreconcilable with the existence of chattel slavery. involuntary servitude because people have an inherent right to own what it is that they produce with their labor. And sometimes we can, you exchange that by mutual agreement with an employer. For example, I'm going to give you so many hours of work and you're going to give me some pay that's agreeable to both of us. But that's not the way socialists and communists view the world. They believe that the state, the government, has complete right to ownership over everything that you produce and complete ability to redistribute that. So just so people understand that's why it's a threat. So what does communism have to do with respect to the church? Well, they have to tame it or destroy it. And so in China, as in Russia, I believe Christians and pastors are typically killed in a communist revolution. And then in China, the Three Self Church, the official church that you mentioned, is created, which is tamed. It's a tamed Christian faith.
It's not a church.
They
It's
change
a communist church.
Yeah, they make a communist church, but they use Christian language. And so coming around to where we are in our country today, so people should be aware of liberation theology, which is the very same effort, is the effort to tame and neuter or neutralize the threat of the Bible against the communist worldview. So
actually, I go a step further.
Yeah.
I think they actually appear to be so communism in America today, the cultural the woke communism is actually in the cloak of a priest, because they preach the shared Christian value, but inverted its meaning. Like today, they say love your neighbors, but who are our neighbors? They're the illegals.
That's right.
And then love and love now is not love the truth, but love the lies. So you have to confirm, reaffirm someone even though you know it's a lie. So they still
and
use
to expand evil doing and lawlessness.
Yeah, and then of course everything, all the things we talk a little bit about Islamism, why it can make such a headway in the West. It's also because the inverted value, and now everything is like a oppressor and an oppressed. It's just a simple formula, and whoever is looked at as oppressed is virtuous. So it doesn't matter if it's a terrorist, murderers, or whoever. And then the stronger ones is the oppressor. So it's all this, like our value is totally made up upside down. It's because cultural Marxist.
Yes. Well, there's so much that we have to talk about, and I want to come around, as you mentioned, Islam once again. I want to come to that in a moment, but before we do, for the benefit of those who maybe younger people or other people who are not so familiar with communism, maybe people are thinking, socialism sounds pretty good. Communism sound, maybe it's a good idea. Maybe we haven't tried that yet. What can people expect if this country does continue to move in that direction? From your experience, what can people expect?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to describe exactly communism is about, but I just simplify. Communism has nothing to do with this lofty goals and the sun. So it's one word, control.
Yeah.
Control. What you mean? Well, control what? Control everything. When I lived in China under Mao, they control where you live, what you can have, how much food you can get, and housing, job,
how many children you have?
Even spouse who you can marry, and what you can read, and what you can say, and most of all, what you can think. That is everything controlled. That's why it's called totalitarianism. It's control every aspect of your life. And why they want to control everything? Because they want power. When they control everything, they have power. So if you want to understand communism in a very simple way, is control and power. So why it's bad? If you have to be told what you can have. And now they say, you don't have to have anything. You own nothing and you will be happy. And that's communism.
Mhm.
So you don't have anything and you must be happy. If you show that you're not happy, and you will be in trouble. You might, the police might come to you and have a talk with you, and then you end up in gulag.
Yeah.
That is communism. Okay, so choice and control is the opposite. When you have choice, you have freedom, and that's what America is about. It's
Mhm.
all about a personal choice. You choose whatever for your own life, and under communism, the government, the party tells you what to do, what you can have, and what you should be. And now you can declare, you can be anything you identify yourself until you get to communism. The party tell you what you should be.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yep.
can't choose what you want to be.
Right. That
So-
doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun to me.
I don't think so. I don't think
Yeah.
so.
So can people have socialism? How is socialism linked to communism? And is it possible to have socialism without what would you say about whether socialism is a safe thing to play around with?
Okay, socialism actually came before Karl Marx. Yeah,
Mhm.
but after Karl Marx, the word socialism took a new meaning. And so what is socialism today? Socialism in Marxism is that it's the initial stage of communism. Okay, so people say, okay, so what's the difference? So there's no, according to Karl Marx, there's no communist country in the world. China is not a communist country.
Mhm.
China is a socialist country. And if you go read their constitution, it's a socialist country. North Korea is a socialist country.
Mhm.
Cuba is a socialist country. Soviet Union was a socialist country.
Yeah. USS.
So,
yeah.
yeah. So what is communism? Communism is when all countries become socialist country, we enter the last stage, the utopia, the ultimate paradise, and that's called communism.
Mhm.
So that is, there's what's the difference? No difference. It's just stages. So so you say that China, they call it the communist country. It's just the misuse of the word, because in China, it is a communist, it is a socialist country led by Communist Party. So is North Korea, and so is Cuba. That's the difference. So the difference is no difference.
We often hear the term common good, and I think, according to the communist worldview is the state's control of everything best serves the common good. The ultimate contrast to communism is the individualism that has defined the United States from the beginning, what we call self-governance or self-rule, where the individual governs through our votes, and we do it together, but we have the individual rights that are unalienable and so forth. And the theory is that when by affirming individual rights, you are actually accomplishing the common good. So it's interesting because they talk about the common good all the time, but the actual experience under these socialist systems is quite opposite to that.
Yeah, the other major difference between American experiment and communism is one is individual, the other is collective.
Yeah.
Okay, so I say there's no freedom unless you have individual freedom. There's no such thing as collective freedom. But right now, people don't understand the difference. DEI is collective freedom. DEI said you belong to this category of group of people, and you get this and this. If you just happen to belong to the wrong category, you don't get this and this. And it is when the individual's gone and the collective becomes the goal, and who make the decision that this group deserves this and that, and that's the party, that's the state. And when you have that, you have lost your freedom, and they have total control of us.
So why do you think, just to wrap it up, that that, for example, Muslims and other groups that are morally really have very little in common um, with communists, or are not inherently communist in their own worldview, are so aligned and marching together with the communists today. We talked about that a little bit, but just explain to those watching why you think that is.
I think that one thing structurally, Islamism and communism are collective. They are collective.
Yeah, and they're both authoritarian. Yeah. That's for sure.
Yeah, they are. And no, they are not. They are totalitarianism.
Totalitarian.
What's
yes.
the difference between authoritarianism and totalitarianism? Totalitarianism is a theocracy.
Yes.
Authoritarianism just I made the rule, you obey. Okay, blindly obey it. But it doesn't want to re-engineer human nature. It does not want you to change how you privately believe something. But theocracy does, and communism is theocracy. And
it's atheist, but it is a
religion.
It is a religion.
Yeah, it's a religion. So now these two religions structurally are very similar, okay, but they have a common enemy. And that common enemy is the United States and the West. The Western civilization or Christianity, basically. Yeah. That's their enemy. So they too have structurally similarity, but they are at odds with each other. So it's a unholy alliances because they share one common enemy that's brought them together. And I said the way for Islamism to be so dominant in the West is because cultural Marxism. But once their enemy is beaten, once America is no more, Western civilization is no more, they too have to fight. Yes. And I don't know who will win. I believe communism will win because I think communists are more ruthless. But some people, my Muslim friends who are not Islamists, believe that Islam will win because it is more ruthless. I don't know. Yeah. But then it's not a good picture. Whatever, any one of them win, it is totalitarianism, it is end our freedom, and it's the beginning of the dark age.
So that's a pretty bleak picture that we've painted, and unfortunately it is the reality of our situation. I'd like to wrap it up by hearing your recommendations of how we can change course from going down this road. Before I do, have you ever seen this book by Yuri Bezmenov?
I know about it. I listened to him for his interview, so I haven't read it.
Yeah. So in addition to She Van Fleet's book, which everybody here should read, and I'll put the links in the bottom of this video, this is very interesting because from a Russian perspective, he talks about the strategy. He was working for the KGB to subvert new countries to prepare them for a communist revolution. So anyway, with those things in mind and everything that we've talked about, we could talk for hours, I know, here, and I would love to do that. But She Van Fleet, would you please give your recommendations of what every American, every person watching this can do to help to turn this around and make sure that we don't go down that road, which would be so damaging to so many people?
Yes, I would say the first thing is to educate yourself. Well, so if you come and listen to this podcast, you already took the first step, is to inform yourself. And so the books, there's so many other books that you can read about the horror of communism and cultural Marxism. And so I think the first thing is to inform, to understand that our enemy today is communism. Okay, it's not climate a crisis or whatever. It's communism. Okay,
that's a tool of communism. The communists, really. Yeah.
And so once you understand it, and so I think you will feel the urgency to warn others, because you just understand and keep it to yourself. Then that's still good, because we wake up one person. But in order to win the war, you have to wake up more people. That's why I say to stop communism from taking over America, we have all become Charlie Kirk. That means we have to speak the truth, and have the courage to speak the truth. And so, I think that the conservatives, we really share the blame of his assassination, because because not enough of us speaking up. That's made him the target, right? If we all speak up the same thing, they can't kill all of us. That's just impossible. And so have the courage and speak the truth. And when someone comes to tell you something, it's a lie, confront with facts, but you have to educate yourself first. And I talked to, last week, I was in the Chinese service to honor Charlie Kirk. And then someone talked to me that she said it's a Chinese couple. She told me she has trouble talking to their high school children because she doesn't have all the vocabulary, the knowledge. I said, well, that is the problem. So I said, you can solve that problem by listening to all Charlie Kirk's video, watch it and listen to it. That means you have to educate. You have to have the vocabulary. You have to have the knowledge to talk, to really combat the ideology whenever you encounter them. So that's how we wake up the people. And sometimes it may be just impossible to talk to someone who are already so far gone. But there's so many people in the middle. They're just not informed. They're not informed because they have paid attention. They haven't paid attention. Those are the people that are worth our effort to wake up. No one, even the communists want to live under communism. Yeah. That is the truth. They don't know. Those, those Antifa and those social justice warriors, they have no idea. If communists succeeded here, they're the first to go because they seem to be the true believers.
Well, interestingly, now that you mention it, that's one of the things that Besmanoff writes about in his book.
Yes.
He said, we were preparing these people and we had people who were the biggest believers in our cause. And he said it, as a person on the inside who was preparing the way, it broke his heart because some of these people he became attached to as a communist pushing this because he knew that they were on the list to be wiped out as soon as the revolution. It's a very interesting and sad thing. So you
know what? Correct. Because they take everything too seriously. Yeah. And so once they help the revolution to succeed, they say, hey, this is not what we signed up to. They shut up and
because
them on the
they would realize that it was a lie to begin with, and you can't people who realize that.
Yeah. So no one wants to live under communism. So and I tell American people, you have two choices. You have one choice: listen to people like me who lived under it and warn you, so we stop it, or you find out yourself. But by then, it might be too late.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for that. And on the side of the cultural Marxism things, have you yet become familiar with Megan Basham's book Shepherds for Sale?
There's just so many. There's so many more books that are coming out. More. Yesterday, I went to the premiere of a documentary, and it's called God Complex. It's basically about censorship industrial complex in America, and I was featured in it. And that just tells you how our system has fallen to the hands of a few who control how we get information, what can go out, what should be taken down, and by doing so, they control our mind. And so, watch everything you can, read everything you can. We have to have the knowledge, the understanding in order to combat this deceptive. Communism is very deceptive.
Very much.
It's deceptive ideology. Otherwise, you won't even have the way to debate with them.
It's the gaslighting. So people will say, and this is the other thing that we're fighting against, is people will say, "Oh, that's not really happening." On the one hand, or they'll say, "Oh, it's not really that bad," and both of those things are not true. So like you say, thank you for reminding people to be educated. Just read a book. None of us are going to be able to be 100% perfect in our communication with others, but
they are not either. Those people,
Yeah, remember that your opponents are also human.
Yeah.
And not only are they human, but they're actually wrong on this particular issue. So by being informed and sincere and striving to do what's right, I think we have a good possibility of working against this thing. Well, thank you so much. Anything else you'd like to add before we conclude?
We'll have a very good
Okay.
conversation.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we end, just tell people where they can find you online.
Yeah, and I kind of quit Facebook because I think I'm shadow bad. So I'm very, very active on X. So
On X.
my handle is X Van Fleet. X VANFLEET, and I tweet pretty much every day.
Yes, and your tweets are very worth paying attention to. So thank you very much for taking the time for the conversation. God bless you, and look forward to seeing you again.
Same here. Thank you.